The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss and stepped onto Station Helix 7 for the first time. She carried one bag over her shoulder. She wore old boots, simple pants, and a leather jacket that had seen better days. The jacket was dark brown, cracked in places, and the patches on it had faded so much that nobody could read them anymore. It smelled like old earth, like rain and dust and history. Around her, other cadets poured out of different shuttles. They came from 12-star systems. Some had scales that shined like gems. Others had silver skin that reflected the station lights. A few had 4 arms or eyes that glowed in strange colors. And then there were the humans from the colony worlds, dressed in perfect uniforms, their skin clean and soft from lives lived in climate-controlled cities. Was different. She was from old Earth. Not the pretty parts that tourists visited, but from the Korean peninsula, from the crowded cities built on platforms above the flooded land. Earth humans were poor. Earth humans were stubborn. Earth humans refused to leave their dying planet even when everyone told them to go. The other species looked at Earth humans the way rich people look at beggars. A tall girl with scales that changed color walked up beside. This was, her scales shifted from blue to purple as she looked up and down. "What is that thing you are wearing?" asked. Her voice was not cruel, but it was not kind either. It was the voice of someone looking at something strange and a little bit funny. "A jacket," said. "Is that animal skin, real animal skin?" Scales flickered to orange, disgust. "Your people still wear dead creatures." Did not answer. She kept walking toward the registration building. Behind her she heard talking to other cadets. "She is wearing a dead animal. Can you believe it? I thought humans had evolved past that." The registration hall was huge. Thousands of cadets moved through lines, getting their room assignments and schedules, found her line and waited. She did not look at anyone. She had learned long ago that looking invited talking, and talking invited trouble. But trouble found her anyway. 3 cadets from the Dominion stepped in front of her. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with silver skin and eyes like polished metal. They were proud people. Their civilization was old and powerful. They looked at younger species the way adults look at noisy children. "Look at this," one of them said. His name, would later learn, was a museum exhibit that walks and breathes. The other 2 laughed. "Where did you find that jacket, little human?" the second one asked. "Did you dig it up from a grave?" Looked at him calmly. "It was my grandmother's." "Your grandmother wore dead animal skin," shook his head slowly. "Earth humans truly are primitive. I do not know why the Academy accepts your kind." They walked away, still laughing. Got her room assignment. She got her schedule. She walked through the long hallways of the Academy, passing windows that showed stars and distant planets. Everything here was clean and new and perfect. Everything except her. Her room was small but nice. 2 beds, 2 desks, a window looking out at space. Was already there, unpacking clothes that shimmered with colors had never seen before. Looked at single bag. "That is all you brought?" "Yes." "Are you going to take off that jacket? It smells strange." "No." Scales went yellow, confusion. "You are a strange human." Put her bag on her bed and began to unpack. She had 3 sets of clothes, a tablet, and a small picture of her family. That was everything she owned in the universe. The next morning, all new cadets gathered in the main hall for orientation. Sat in the back, wearing her jacket. The room was cold from the air systems, but the jacket kept her warm. It always kept her warm. A human man sat down next to her. He was handsome, with perfect hair and perfect teeth and a perfect uniform. His name tag said, and under it, New Geneva. New Geneva was a human colony world. Rich, powerful. The humans there had left Earth 300 years ago and never looked back. They thought of Earth humans as embarrassing relatives. "You should take that thing off," said quietly. "People are starving." "Let them stare." "You do not understand." His voice was tight. "We have worked hard to prove that humans belong here. We have fought for respect. And then someone like you shows up wearing garbage and makes us all look bad." Turned to look at him. Her eyes were calm but cold. "Someone like me. An Earth human. You people are stuck in the past. You hold on to old things and old ways. You refuse to change. Do you know how hard it is for colony humans to be taken seriously when people see Earth humans acting like savages?" Said nothing. "Just take off the jacket," said, "please, for all of us." Turned back to face the front of the room. The orientation was starting. "No." She heard sigh and move away from her. She did not care. The jacket stayed on. After orientation, cadets went to get their equipment. Standard uniforms, tablets, training gear. Waited in line with everyone else. When she reached the front, an old alien with 6 eyes and 4 arms scanned her items and handed them over. Then he looked at her jacket. "May I scan that?" he asked. Hesitated, but it was just a scan. "Okay." He ran the scanner over the jacket. The machine beeped. The old alien looked at the screen. His 6 eyes went wide. All 4 of his hands stopped moving. "Is something wrong?" asked. "No," he said quickly, too quickly. "Nothing, go." But as walked away, she looked back. The old alien was making a call on his communicator. His hands were shaking. She did not know why. She did not know what the scanner had found. But something told her that her grandmother's jacket was more than just old leather. Something told her that everything was about to change. The first real class was tactical history. Walked into the room and found a seat in the back corner. She was wearing her jacket as always. The other cadets filled the seats in front of her. 40 students from 9 different species. Sat near the front with other. Sat in the middle with humans from colony worlds. The cadets, including, sat together on the right side. Nobody sat near. She heard whispers. She always heard whispers. "That jacket again. Does she ever wash it?" Earth humans are so strange. They hold on to old things like children hold onto toys. "I heard she sleeps in it. How sad." Kept her eyes forward. She had learned to ignore voices long ago. Words were just air. They could not hurt her unless she let them. The door opened, and the room went silent. Commander walked in. He was one of the warrior species that had helped build the United Systems. He stood 8 feet tall, with 4 massive arms and a face like cracked stone. Old scars crossed his gray skin. One of his 4 eyes was missing, replaced by a glowing red implant. He moved slowly, like a mountain that had learned to walk. Everyone knew Commander. He had fought in the wars for 30 years. He had killed more enemies than most cadets would ever see. He was a legend. He was also terrifying. Stood at the front of the room and looked at the cadets with his 3 real eyes and 1 fake one. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "Welcome to tactical history," he said. His voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "In this class, you will learn how wars are won and lost. You will learn why empires rise and fall. You will learn that the species who forgets its history is the species that dies." He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above his desk. It showed a map of the galaxy, with 12 different colors marking 12 different territories. "The United Systems," said. 12 species, 12 worlds, working together in peace, but it was not always this way. 300 years ago we were at war, species against species, world against world. We called it the Devastation Wars. Billions died. The hologram changed to show burning planets and destroyed fleets. "The wars ended when we realized that fighting each other would destroy us all. We formed the United Systems. We agreed to work together. We built this academy to train officers from all species, so that we would never forget that we are stronger together than apart." A hand went up. It was one of the cadets, not but his friend. Commander said, "Why were humans included in the founding? They had barely achieved interstellar travel at that time. They were primitive compared to the rest of us. Some cadets laughed softly. His face turned red. Did not laugh. His eyes moved slowly across the room, looking at each cadet one by one. Then his eyes stopped on. No, not on her jacket. The room felt suddenly colder, stood completely still. His four arms, which had been moving as he talked, went rigid at his sides. His three real eyes focused on the old leather like it was the most dangerous thing in the room. Cadet said his voice was different now, quieter, stand up. Stood, she felt every eye in the room turn to her. Come here. She walked to the front of the room. Her boots made soft sounds on the floor. She stopped in front of Commander. He was so tall that she had to look up to see his face. Where did you get that jacket? He asked. It was my great-great-grandmother's, sir. She flew in the Earth Defense Coalition. The room was completely silent. The other cadets did not understand why this mattered. They did not understand why Commander, the legendary warrior, was looking at its old jacket like it was a holy relic. May I see the inside? Asked. His voice was almost gentle now, almost afraid. Hesitated, then she opened the jacket. Inside on the lining there was a patch. It was old and faded, a white star over a blue circle. Under the star there were words in Korean. Most people could not read them anymore. But Commander could. He leaned closer. His breath stopped. His forearms trembled slightly. Then he stood straight and turned to the class. Everyone out, he said. Nobody moved. They were too confused. Now his voice was thunder. Class dismissed. Everyone except this cadet, out now. Cadets scrambled for the door. Chairs scraped. Feet shuffled. In 30 seconds the room was empty except for Commander. The door closed with a soft click. Looked at, his eyes were different now. She had expected anger or confusion. Instead, she saw something else. Respect. Sit down, cadet, he said quietly. I have something to show you. Sat in the front row, walked to his desk and pressed several buttons. The hologram changed. Now it showed something different. Old footage, grainy and damaged. It was from Earth more than 800 years ago. Do you know what this is? Asked. Looked at the footage. She saw dark skies filled with strange ships. She saw cities burning. She saw people running in terror. The first contact, she whispered. Yes, his voice was heavy. But not the peaceful first contact your history books describe. The real first contact. The one most species have forgotten. The one that humans should never forget. The footage showed massive alien ships descending through Earth's atmosphere. They were ships. The hegemony had once been the most feared empire in the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds. They had enslaved entire species. And 800 years ago, they had come to Earth. They expected no resistance, said. Earth had not even colonized its own moon yet. Humans were primitive, weak, easy prey. He looked at his jacket again. They were wrong. The footage changed. Now it showed something impossible. Old aircraft, ancient machines with propellers and rockets flying toward the fleet. They were so small compared to the alien ships, so fragile, so hopeless. But they flew anyway. 60 pilots, said. They called themselves the Ghost Hawks. They flew aircraft that should have been in museums. They wore leather jackets and carried weapons that could barely scratch armor. He pointed at the patch inside his jacket. That symbol, the white star, that was their symbol, and your great-great-grandmother was one of them. Could not speak. She could not breathe. She had always known her grandmother's jacket was old. She had always known it was special to her family. She had never known this. Sit down, said again. The story is not finished, and you need to hear all of it. The hologram showed Earth burning, cities destroyed, millions of people running with nowhere to go. The ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, raining fire on everything below. Commander stood beside the hologram, his four arms crossed over his massive chest. His voice was quiet now, almost soft. It was strange to hear such a gentle sound from such a terrifying creature. "The hegemony," he said. "For 3,000 years they conquered everything they touched. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They took what they wanted and destroyed what they did not need. Entire species disappeared because of them. Entire civilizations ended in fire." Watched the footage. Her heart was beating fast. She had heard stories about the first contact, of course. Every human child learned about it in school. But the stories she knew were different. They talked about how aliens came to Earth and eventually made peace. They talked about how humans joined the galactic community. They did not talk about this. They did not talk about burning cities and dying screams and ships that blocked out the sun. Earth was supposed to be easy, continued. They found your planet by accident. A scout ship crashed in your ocean. When they came to retrieve it, they discovered a world full of life, full of resources, full of creatures that had not yet reached the stars. He pressed a button. The hologram changed to show soldiers. They were tall and thin, with black shells and red eyes. They looked like insects built for war. They sent a harvesting fleet, 50 ships, 10,000 soldiers. The plan was simple: kill the leaders, destroy the weapons, take the planet. They had done it 100 times before on 100 different worlds. But Earth was different, said quietly. Looked at her, something like a smile crossed his face. Yes, Earth was different. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a small building, hidden in mountains. Inside the building, humans in uniforms were studying the wreckage of a strange ship. "The crashed scout ship," explained. "Your people found it before they came to retrieve it. They took it apart. They studied every piece. They learned things that should have taken centuries to discover." "What things?" "Weaknesses." His voice dropped even lower. "Every species has weaknesses. The shields were powerful, but they had a flaw. A specific frequency of energy could pass through them. They knew about this flaw, but they did not worry about it. No primitive species would ever discover it." He paused. "Your people discovered it in 2 weeks." The hologram showed scientists working day and night, engineers building strange devices, pilots training in old aircraft that had been modified with new technology. "They could not build new weapons fast enough," said. "They could not build new ships, so they used what they had, old aircraft from old wars, machines that belonged in museums. They modified them with the technology from the crashed ship. They added weapons that could pierce shields." But the pilots said they had no protection, no shields, no armor. "No," his voice was heavy. "They had leather jackets and courage, nothing else." The hologram showed the ghost hawks now, 60 pilots standing in front of their aircraft. They were young, so young. Most of them looked barely older than. They wore flight suits and leather jackets with the white star symbol on the chest. And there in the front row stood a woman with fierce eyes and a determined face. Flight lieutenants said, "Spectre, your great-great-grandmother." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She had seen pictures of her ancestor before, old photographs that her family kept in a small box, but she had never seen her like this. Young, alive, ready to fight. "The ghost hawks flew for 11 days, continued. 11 days against a fleet that had conquered worlds. They had no shields. They had no way to escape if things went wrong. Every mission was a suicide mission." The hologram showed the battles. Tiny aircraft flying between massive warships, explosions in the sky, pilots dying one by one. "They lost 53 pilots," said quietly. 53 out of 60, but they did not stop. Every time one fell, another took their place. Every time a plane was destroyed, they built another from scraps. "How did they win?" asked. Her voice was shaking. "On the 11th day, your grandmother led a team of 7 pilots in an attack on the flagship. The ship was protected by hundreds of fighters. It was supposed to be impossible to reach." The hologram showed small aircraft diving through a storm of enemy fire. 5 pilots died in the first minute, then 2 more. By the time they reached the flagship, only your grandmother was left. Watch the hologram. She saw her ancestors' tiny aircraft, alone against a ship the size of a city. She flew into the engine exhaust port, said. It was the only weak point. The only place the shields did not cover. She dropped her weapons and flew out through the other side just before the explosion. The hologram showed the flagship breaking apart in a ball of fire. The crown prince of the hegemony was on that ship, said. When he died, the fleet panicked. They retreated. They left Earth and never came back. He turned off the hologram. The room was dark now, lit only by the stars outside the window. I fought them for 30 years, said quietly. I watched them destroy planets. I watched them kill billions. They were unstoppable, unbeatable. Every species in the galaxy feared them. He looked at its jacket. His eyes were full of something she had never expected to see from a warrior. Oh. And your grandmother, wearing nothing but leather and determination, broke them. Touched her jacket. The old leather felt different now, heavier, more important. Why does nobody know this? She asked. Why did they never teach us? Because humans are humble, said. Because your people moved forward instead of looking back. Because the colony worlds wanted to forget that Earth saved them. He walked closer too. His massive form blocked out the light. That symbol inside your jacket is in war museums on 6 different worlds. It hangs in the Hall of Founders on the Council Station. Your grandmother's jacket is in history textbooks that children across the galaxy study. His voice dropped to a whisper. And you have been letting children mock you for wearing it. Stood up straight. She felt something changing inside her, not pride exactly, something deeper, something older. Purpose. What do you want me to do? She asked. Smiled. It was a terrible smile, full of teeth and scars. Nothing yet, he said. But next week there will be an assembly, all 400 cadets, and I think it is time they learned some history. He looked at the jacket one more time. Keep wearing it, cadet. Let them laugh. They will not laugh for much longer. 1 week passed. 7 days of whispers and laughter and cruel jokes about the Earth girl and her ugly jacket. Heard them all. She said nothing. She did nothing. She simply went to class, did her work, and wore her jacket. Some cadets noticed that Commander treated her differently now. He nodded at her in the hallways. He called on her in class and listened carefully to her answers, but nobody understood why. Nobody asked. On the 7th day, all 400 cadets received the same message on their tablets. Emergency assembly. Main hall. Attendance mandatory. Walked to the main hall with the other cadets. Walked beside her, scales shifting nervously between colors. Do you know what this is about? Asked. No, lied. The main hall was enormous. 400 seats arranged in a half-circle around a central stage. Found a seat near the middle. Sat next to her. Sat a few rows ahead with the other colony humans. The cadets, including, and sat on the far side, their silver skin glowing under the lights. Everyone was talking. Everyone was guessing. Emergency assemblies were rare. Something important must have happened. The doors at the back of the stage opened. Commandant walked out. She was alike but older and smaller. Her 4 arms were covered in medals and ribbons from a lifetime of service. Everyone fell silent immediately. Cadets, said. Her voice filled the hall without effort. Thank you for coming on short notice. Commander has requested time to address what he calls an educational deficiency among our class. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Was feared, but he was also respected. An educational deficiency. What had they done wrong? Walked onto the stage. He looked even bigger than usual somehow. More serious, more dangerous. Cadets, he said. I have been teaching at this academy for 20 years. I have trained officers from every species in the United Systems. I thought I had seen every type of ignorance, every type of foolishness, every type of disrespect. He paused, his 4 eyes scanned the crowd. I was wrong. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. In the past week, I have watched cadets from this class mock a fellow student. I have heard cruel words. I have seen cruel actions. And the reason for this cruelty was an old jacket. Felt people looking at her, she kept her eyes on. An old jacket made of leather, faded patches, cracked from age. You looked at this jacket and saw something primitive, something embarrassing, something worthy of mockery. Pressed a button. A hologram appeared above the stage. It showed Earth 800 years ago. You were wrong. The hologram began to play. It showed the invasion, dark ships filling the sky, cities burning, people screaming and running and dying. 800 years ago, the hegemony came to Earth. They expected to find a primitive planet full of easy prey. They had conquered 100 worlds before. They had never lost. The hologram showed the crashed scout ship, the scientists studying it, the impossible discovery. In 2 weeks, humans found a weakness in shields that they themselves did not know existed. In 2 weeks, they built weapons that could hurt an enemy no one else could touch. Now the hologram showed the Ghost Hawks, 60 pilots in leather jackets standing in front of ancient aircraft. They called themselves the Ghost Hawks, 60 pilots, old aircraft, no shields, no armor, nothing but leather and courage. The hall was completely silent. 400 cadets watched the hologram with wide eyes. They flew suicide missions for 11 days. They lost 53 pilots, but they did not stop. They did not surrender. They did not run. The hologram showed the final battle. Tiny aircraft diving toward the massive flagship. Explosions everywhere. Death everywhere. On the 11th day, one pilot flew alone into the heart of the flagship. She destroyed it. She killed the crown prince. She broke the invasion. The hologram froze on an image. A young woman with fierce eyes standing in front of a burning ship. Her jacket was open. The white star patch was visible on her chest. Flight Lieutenant Instructor turned to face the crowd. Her great-great-granddaughter is sitting in this room, wearing that same jacket, and some of you have been mocking her for it. The silence was absolute, felt hundreds of eyes turning toward her. She did not look away from. The cadet who had called her a museum exhibit was staring at the hologram with a pale face. His silver skin had gone almost white. The Dominion surrendered to the without firing a single shot, said, looking directly at. Earth humans in leather jackets saved you owe your existence to pilots like. He turned to the where sat frozen with shock. The Republic paid tribute to the for 200 years. You gave them resources, technology, soldiers. Humans gave them nothing but death. He turned to the colony humans, was looking at the floor, his face red with shame. And you, humans from the colony worlds, you call Earth humans primitive, embarrassing, backward. But while your ancestors were running to the stars, Earth humans were dying to protect them. Walk to the edge of the stage. That jacket is not a piece of garbage. It is a holy relic. It belongs in a museum, in a place of honor, where people can see it and remember what courage truly looks like. He looked at Cadet stand up. Stood, her heart was pounding, but her face was calm. Your great-great-grandmother was a hero. The word is not strong enough, but it is the only word we have. She saved Earth. She saved the galaxy. She changed history. He turned back to the crowd. And her descendant has more honor in her old jacket than most of you have in your entire bodies. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The weight of shame hung over the hall like a cloud. Step back from the edge of the stage. This assembly is over. Go back to your rooms. Think about what you have learned. And the next time you see Cadet's jacket, remember what it means. He walked off the stage. Commandant followed him without a word. For a long moment nobody moved. Then slowly cadets began to stand. They walked out of the hall in silence. Some of them looked at as they passed. Their eyes were different now, respectful, ashamed, amazed. Stopped beside seat. Her scales were gray now, the color of deep shame. "I did not know," she whispered. "I am so sorry, I did not know." Looked at her former roommate. She could have said cruel words. She could have made feel even worse. But that was not who she was. That was not what her grandmother would have done. "Now you know," said simply. Nodded and walked away, her head low. Approached next. The colony human who had told her she was dragging humanity backward. He could not meet her eyes. "I was wrong," he said. "I was so wrong, I am sorry. I do not know if you can forgive me, but I am sorry." Looked at him for a long moment. "My grandmother did not fly into that ship so that humans could fight each other," she said. "She flew so that we could survive, together." She stood up and buttoned her jacket. "We are both human, start acting like it." She walked out of the hall alone. The jacket felt lighter now somehow, or maybe she was finally strong enough to carry its weight. Either way, nobody would mock it again. 3 months passed. The academy changed around, or maybe it was who had changed. The mockery stopped completely. Now when cadets saw her jacket, they nodded with respect. Some of them even bowed slightly, a gesture of honor from their home cultures. Did not let it change her. She still sat in the back of classrooms. She still kept to herself. She still wore the jacket every day, not for pride, but because it was part of her. But she was not alone anymore. Had become a true friend, working hard to prove that her earlier cruelty did not define her. Followed around like a loyal shadow, trying to make up for his words with actions. Even the cadets who had called her a museum exhibit treated her with careful respect. Now the greatest test of the year had arrived, the survival crucible. Every cadet feared the crucible. 72 hours in a hostile simulation. No real weapons. No communication with the outside. Just a team of 6 cadets stranded behind enemy lines trying to reach extraction. Teams were assigned randomly. Looked at her team list and felt her heart sink slightly. Team 7, Land, was a like commander. In fact, he was Commander's nephew. He was huge and strong and proud, but he was also young and had never faced real hardship. He was their team leader by default because always led. The simulation began at midnight. Team 7 was dropped into a frozen forest, surrounded by enemy territory. Their mission was simple: get to the extraction point, 15 kilometers away, without getting caught. For the first 30 hours, everything went well. They moved carefully through the trees and used their ability to see heat signatures to spot enemy patrols. Scales could change color to match the environment, making her nearly invisible. His body, built for the high gravity of New Geneva, could carry heavy loads without tiring. Watched her team work together. Different species, different abilities, different histories, but working as one. This is what my grandmother fought for, she thought. Then disaster struck. They were crossing a frozen river when the simulation attacked. Drones came from everywhere, firing stun blasts that felt like real pain. The team scattered. In the chaos, was hit 3 times in the chest. He went down hard. Screamed. They dragged their team leader behind a rock. His breathing was shallow. His eyes were glazed. 3 stun blasts should have triggered the medical evacuation protocol. He should have been transported out of the simulation to receive care. But nothing happened. The system had failed. Was still in the simulation, badly hurt with no help coming. "What do we do?" asked, her scales flickering with fear. "We have to move," said. "The drones will come back. If we stay here, we all fail." "We cannot leave him," said. "Then we carry him," said quietly. Everyone looked at her. For the past 3 months she had been quiet. She had let others lead. She had followed orders and done her work without complaint. But now her eyes were different, harder, older, like the eyes in the hologram of her grandmother. "We are 15 kilometers from extraction," she said. "The drones are hunting us. Our leader is down. The simulation wants us to fail." She stood up straight. "My grandmother flew into certain death with nothing but an old aircraft and a leather jacket. She did not give up. She did not leave anyone behind, and neither will we." She turned to, "Your scales can bend light. How long can you keep us invisible from sensors?" "Maybe 5 seconds at a time. It takes too much energy." "5 seconds is enough." She turned to, "Can you carry for 15 kilometers?" Looked at the massive, was twice his size. "Yes," he said without hesitation. "Your eyes can see heat. You walk in front. Find us a path through the sensor network. Avoid every drone you can see." The cadets nodded. Took off her jacket. Everyone stared. "What are you doing?" asked. Walked to and wrapped the jacket around his chest. Did not handle cold well. His body temperature was dropping. "Keeping a friend warm," she said simply. They moved out. The next 12 hours were the hardest of life. They crawled through snow and ice. They hid behind rocks while drones passed overhead, used her scales to blind sensors at critical moments, and led them through impossible gaps in the enemy network. Carried without complaint, even when his legs shook with exhaustion. And led them all, not with strength or speed, but with something else, with the calm certainty of someone who knew exactly what her ancestors had done, with the quiet determination of someone carrying 800 years of history on her shoulders. 3 times they were almost caught. 3 times found a way through. She used every ability of every species on her team. She combined their strengths in ways no one had thought of before. They reached the extraction point with 2 hours to spare. When the simulation ended and the lights came back on, they found a crowd waiting for them. Commander was there. Commandant was there. Instructors from every department stood in a half circle, watching Team 7 emerge from the simulation. Was carried out on a stretcher, still weak but alive. His jacket was still wrapped around his chest. Commandant stepped forward. Her 4 eyes looked at the exhausted, frozen, victorious cadets. "Team 7, she said, "you are the only team in 15 years to complete the crucible with a wounded member. You should have failed. You should have left him behind. Every simulation model said you would." She looked at. "Why did you not?" Stood straight despite her exhaustion. "Because that is not who we are, Commandant. Not my team, not any of us. We do not leave people behind." 6 months later, the graduation ceremony filled the Academy's Grand Hall. Stood on the stage, wearing a new dress uniform covered in medals. First honor graduate. The highest rank possible. The first Earth-born human to achieve it in the Academy's history. Her jacket was not on her body. It hung in a glass case in the Academy's Hall of Valor, properly restored, patches bright and clear again. The placard beside it read, "Flight Jacket of Ghost Hawk Squadron, Earth Defense Coalition, on loan from her descendant cadet." Gave her graduation speech. She talked about the Academy. She talked about her classmates. She talked about the future they would build together. And then at the end, she talked about the jacket. "My grandmother flew with 59 other pilots into certain death," she said. "They knew they would probably die. They flew anyway, not for glory, not for medals, but because someone had to and they were there." She looked at her classmates, humans, 9 different species sitting together, listening together, dreaming together. "The jacket is just leather," she said. "Old animal skin, cracked and faded. It has no power. It grants no special abilities. What matters is not the jacket. What matters is choosing to wear it anyway, choosing to stand when others run, choosing to fight when others surrender." She touched the collar of her uniform, where a small patch of old leather was hidden against her heart, a piece she had kept for herself. Every species in this room has ancestors who made that choice, who stood in the darkness and refused to fall. We are all children of heroes. We are all wearing invisible jackets. She smiled at the crowd. "Let us make our ancestors proud." The hall exploded in applause. Every species, every world, every cadet, standing and cheering for the Earth girl who had taught them what courage truly meant. And somewhere in the Hall of Valor, an old jacket hung in its glass case, its white star patch glowing under the lights, waiting for the next person brave enough to carry its weight.